Does this mean I'm racist? Marvel's Ironheart reactions are in, but you're racist if you don't like it. Wait, what? You're racist if you don't like Ironheart? Is that true?
There is also way too much focus on the LGBTQ community by the fandom in a negative manner, and it just needs to go away, I think, for a healthy story to grow, and for Riri to really share her limelight with...
She was introduced in the comics in 2016, so the character was essentially developed for woke content, yawn. The character was unpopular since the introduction. It didn't help in Wakanda Forever. The character was written like trash. I feel like, in general, people are going to look at this and they're going to think that this is them replacing Iron Man.
Natalie AI thing seems utterly preposterous and ridiculous, and even for an MCU show, I'm finding it to be a little bit of a bridge too far to go. The Heist crew, all lame. Every single one of them, all lame.
And so in this, I'm not sure what they're meant to be, because this character isn't to be confused with Slog.
Slug, our hacker extraordinaire.
Who is also the exact opposite in the same show. I'm really confused.
With a black actress instead of Robert Downey Jr. for like a diversity reason. Like, that's what people are going to see. Now, you might say that's not true. You might say that's not fair. You can say whatever the hell you want. But that's what people are going to look at, and that's what they're going to say.
It deserves your attention. Ironheart deserves your attention. That's how I knew. I was like, oh, they are desperate to get people to watch this show. But after I did my reaction, I kept getting, hey, it wasn't that bad. I just watched it. Hey, I just watched the first 3 episodes. It wasn't that bad.
Ironheart might be one of the worst executed ideas ever in the MCU, because under all that garbage was actually potential.
Yeah, and it's like the real Tony Stark. It's like back somehow, and there's like a moment where she's flying through and he's like, who is that? And she's like, I'm Ironheart, Mr. Stark. And he's like, I like that girl. And then he like goes to do something else. Like, that would be like the level of something that I think would possibly happen.
Ironheart is back, this time going to an uncomfortable place for viewers.
Ironheart is the biggest L of Marvel of all time. The reactions are just spectacular. Supposedly smarter than Tony Stark, bites an electric wire, sells her soul to gain magic powers, uses new powers to steal. What did the writers mean by this? Smoke detector beeps.
I can understand why she's frustrated. That's how I feel watching her interviews.
How do you feel about the impact that she's having on young black girls? And I'm going to be completely honest, on black women.
You know, this is yet another area that's getting vibrant. It's getting full in the way that it should be.
Ironheart is practically unwatchable.
This show basically keyed their car, their mom, and in their bowl of cereal in the morning.
Okay. So Mel Gibson just torched Ironheart, like absolutely called out the whole thing, dragged Disney into the mud, and walked off with the mic still hot. Welcome back, you guys, and today we're getting into the chaos behind Marvel's latest embarrassment. Now here's the thing, Ironheart didn't just flop, it imploded, and people are not being quiet about it. First, the reviews were cold, then the fans started rage posting, then came the numbers. Ironheart barely made a ripple in the streaming charts. We're talking sub 300 million viewing minutes in the first 3 days. Compare that to Daredevil's debut, and it's laughable. But while most celebs stayed quiet, Mel Gibson was like, nah, I'm saying something. He called it out for what he sees it as, a weak show built around message, not story. And that hit a nerve. We're going to break down exactly what he said, how it lines up with fan complaints, and why insiders are saying Bob Iger and Kevin Feige are scrambling behind the scenes, trying to hold the MCU together with duct tape and shareholder promises. Oh, and we've got rumors. Yep, recast rumors. Internal feuds. DC's Superman reboot lurking in the background, ready to pounce. This is not just about Ironheart anymore. It's about the future of Marvel. And if what we're hearing is true, it's not looking pretty. Let's jump in. So here's where it all started going sideways. Riri Williams. On paper, she was supposed to be this next-gen genius, right? A 15-year-old super inventor, MIT prodigy, big-brain tech wizard who could fill the void left by Tony Stark.
They have Dominique Thorne, going out there talking about DEI, LGBTQ rights, and how there's no agenda there, and she continued to do so. But the other thing is that they also had Robert Downey Jr., and they had him roll out and really kind of prop the show up and prop the character of Riri Williams up above Tony Stark.
But in execution, it was a mess from the jump. Ironheart's comic debut back in 2016 was already met with mixed reactions. Critics praised the idea. Fans? Not so much. A lot of people said it felt forced, like Marvel was trying to check off boxes instead of building a legacy character from the ground up. And when they brought her into the MCU through Wakanda Forever, it didn't exactly win hearts either. Her appearance there felt like filler, like they jammed her into the story just to make the solo series make sense later. But let's talk about that solo series for a second. Instead of a character arc where Riri builds herself up, we got this reckless, confused anti-hero with no real motivation. The series kicks off with her getting kicked out of MIT, then suddenly she's in a gang, selling tech for money, doing shady side deals with zero explanation. It's like they forgot the whole super genius part. Even her supporting cast is a head-scratcher. There's a fire-loving maniac, a tech bro who goes by Rampage, and a hacker who thinks being emotionally unavailable is a personality. It all feels like a bootleg version of a better Marvel team, only without the chemistry or charm. And here's the kicker. This is supposed to be the future of the MCU. Fans were expecting innovation, intelligence, maybe a hint of that Iron Man flair. But what they got was chaotic energy and some forced jokes. A squad that looks like it walked out of a low-budget Netflix drama, and zero stakes anyone actually cared about. But this wasn't just about the characters. What happened next made fans think Disney never believed in this show in the first place. And that's where the shelving rumors start to make a lot more sense. Now, let's get into the numbers. Because oof, they speak louder than any critic ever could. Ironheart didn't just underperform, it barely showed up. When the show first hit Disney+, fans immediately clocked how little hype there actually was. No trending hashtags, no viral memes, no buzz, just silence.
Crew. Here's the squad. Clown, our pyrotechnic specialist.
There's Clown, our pyrotechnics. That means she sets fire to things. She's from Portland. Never saw a car she didn't want to burn.
And when the streaming charts finally dropped, it was bad. Really bad. We're talking under 300 million minutes watched in the first 3 days, and that's with a Marvel logo slapped on it. For comparison, Daredevil, Born Again, which also debuted recently, managed over 300 million in the same window, and it didn't even have the same budget push or legacy hype. That alone should have been a wake-up call. But here's where it gets messier. Insiders claim Ironheart was shelved for nearly 2 years before Disney finally dumped it onto the platform. Yep, 2 years, and not because of creative perfectionism. Nope. Word is, Disney sat on it because they knew it wouldn't land well. They were afraid of the backlash, the fan reaction, the critics tearing it apart for what it was and what it wasn't. And they weren't wrong. Critics gave it a passable 70-something% on Rotten Tomatoes. But the audience? They weren't having it. It nosedived to 59%, and even that number started slipping as more episodes dropped. People didn't just think it was boring, they thought it was confused, tonally awkward, and aggressively unfunny. Some fans straight up called it a filler project, shoved in between better things. Others said it felt like a glorified college essay on identity politics, disguised as a superhero show. And look, when your audience is using words like homework to describe your content, that's not a good sign. But the backlash wasn't just digital. This flop set off alarm bells inside Disney HQ, because with Fantastic Four around the corner and James Gunn flexing hard at DC, the timing could not be worse. And that's exactly when Mel Gibson decided to speak up.
Money she wasn't jealous of. Or
Watch the series and it's just hot garbage. It still has right now on IMDb a 3.7 out of 10. That's like Snow White level bad. It's the worst thing that Disney streaming has ever produced.
So, while Marvel was busy acting like everything was fine, Mel Gibson was already loading up his verbal cannon. And when he fired, it hit hard. In a now viral clip, Mel didn't hold back. He basically called Ironheart exactly what fans had been whispering for months, a flashy distraction with no soul. He slammed the show as being more about message over meaning, and accused Disney of putting identity politics ahead of storytelling. And honestly, a lot of people agreed. Fans were like, wait, finally, someone in Hollywood said it. No corporate filter, no backpedaling, just straight up honesty. Now, Mel isn't exactly new to controversy, but this time it wasn't about him. It was about how far Marvel has drifted from what made it great. His biggest gripe? Ironheart didn't respect the legacy of Tony Stark at all. He said the character of Riri Williams, as presented, felt like a hollow replacement, not a meaningful evolution. And when you think about it, he's got a point. There was no mentorship arc, no moral compass, just a character thrown into chaos with a genius label slapped on. As Mel put it, they don't get it anymore. They just don't get what made people fall in love with these stories. And here's the wild part. He's not alone. Other celebrities have started chiming in, quietly, carefully. But the momentum's building. More and more people in the industry are starting to say the quiet part out loud. It's not about representation. It's not about who's in the suit. It's about why we care in the first place.
So these are the reviews on IMDb. You can see here, 52% now giving it a 1 star.
It deserves your attention. Ironheart deserves your attention. That's how I knew. I was like, oh, they are desperate to get people to watch this damn show. After I did my reaction, I kept getting.
Ironheart didn't give people a reason to root for Riri, and that's on the writing, not the audience. And Mel's mic drop didn't just shake fans, it apparently shook Disney's boardrooms too. Reports say Bob Iger and Kevin Feige were already in crisis mode, but now the heat just got cranked up another level. And if you think that's dramatic, wait until you hear what Disney's reportedly planning to do next. So while the fans were clowning Ironheart online and Mel Gibson was roasting it from the sidelines, Disney was apparently having a full-on internal meltdown. And we're not talking just annoyed execs. We're talking investor calls, emergency meetings, and backdoor damage control kind of chaos. Insiders say Bob Iger and Kevin Feige are sweating bullets, especially with Fantastic Four dropping next. Because here's the thing, Ironheart wasn't supposed to be a throwaway show. It was meant to set the tone for Marvel's next generation. But now that tone is please cancel your subscription quietly. Behind the scenes, people close to the situation claim that Disney pushed Ironheart out purely to keep investors like BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street happy. You've probably heard those names before. Giant firms that are heavily invested in DEI and ESG-friendly media. According to leaks, Disney needed to show progress in their content strategy, even if it meant sacrificing story quality. And it's not just speculation. Dominique Thorne, the actress behind Riri Williams, even said in an interview that sometimes diversity and inclusion take priority over story structure. That quote, it went viral fast. Fans were like, wait, so you're admitting that narrative came second? That moment broke whatever illusion was left, because fans weren't upset about Riri being a black female genius.
Ironheart might actually be the queerest Marvel property since Agatha all along, and it's hella black, and my motto is make it black or make it gayer. Welcome to my safe haven. So this is something I was just thinking about that randomly popped into my head, and I'm like, I gotta make a video about it. But yeah, Ironheart is kinda hella gay.
They were upset that her character was written with the depth of a TikTok trend and handed a billion-dollar franchise slot with no real setup. Meanwhile, Disney's corporate team was spinning hard. Press statements, positive press placements, quiet influencer campaigns, all of it designed to shift focus away from the backlash. But it didn't work. Even longtime MCU fans were starting to check out. And the real kicker? Word is that Feige himself is frustrated, but caught between creative teams and corporate mandates. And now there's chatter about internal rifts between the old guard and the new DEI-forward leadership. But trust, this divide is way deeper than just one bad show. Because next up, we've got Marvel veterans reportedly walking away from their own creations. At this point, it's not just the fans who are fed up. Even the original Marvel creatives are quietly throwing in the towel. The same folks who helped build the Infinity Saga? Yeah, they're reportedly over it. And honestly, who could blame them? Multiple insiders are now saying what fans have suspected for a while. There's a full-blown identity crisis happening inside Marvel Studios. The OG writers, directors, and producers, the ones who helped shape the golden era of the MCU, apparently wanted Ironheart to feel like a natural extension of the Iron Man legacy. High tech, high stakes, rooted in innovation, genius, and real emotional growth. But what did they get? A show that felt like it was written by a marketing committee trying to chase hashtags. Riri's character arc wasn't just weak, it was almost non-existent. And the worst part? Many of the original creatives reportedly had zero input on the final version of the show. Some are allegedly distancing themselves entirely. Others are still under contract, but pushing back harder than ever. One anonymous staffer reportedly said, This isn't the Marvel we built. This is something else. And let's be real, when the people who created the MCU magic start walking away, that's not a small deal. It's like your star quarterback deciding to bench himself mid-game because the coach won't stop calling bad plays.
Hey, it wasn't that bad. I just watched it. Hey, I just watched the first 3 episodes. It wasn't that.
Meanwhile, Marvel's newer execs seem to be doubling down. They're betting big on newer heroes, newer agendas, and newer audiences. And if veteran voices don't align with that mission, they're being sidelined. This growing divide has already led to rumors of major rewrites, delayed productions, and internal drama so messy, even Kevin Feige can't publicly clean it up anymore. But while Marvel tries to hold it together behind closed doors, guess who's watching it all play out and licking their lips? Yeah, DC, and they're coming in hot with James Gunn leading the charge. While Marvel's been busy unraveling like a poorly written third act, James Gunn is over at DC playing the long game. And if the current buzz is anything to go by, he's about to snatch that superhero crown while Marvel's still arguing in the boardroom. Let's be honest, DC hasn't exactly had a smooth ride. Between the Snyderverse chaos and a string of forgettable flops, most fans had written them off. But then Gunn came in, and suddenly, there's actual structure. There's actual vision, there's hope. And here's the kicker. Gunn's Superman reboot is dropping just as Marvel's Fantastic Four is gearing up, which means we're heading straight into a head-to-head clash of cinematic titans. One with momentum, and one with a PR nightmare. Industry insiders are already saying the quiet part out loud. If Marvel fumbles Fantastic Four, it's over. That's their last guaranteed blockbuster IP that hasn't already been tainted by recent messes. And DC? They're betting everything on a grounded, character-driven Superman that feels fresh, nostalgic, and emotionally rich. All the things Marvel fans say the MCU has lost. And let's not forget, fans are craving leadership they trust. Gunn talks to the audience like they matter. He teases the big stuff without overpromising. And above all, he's making content that doesn't feel like a checklist of corporate goals. Meanwhile, Marvel's giving us recycled plot lines, rushed character intros, and episodes that feel like diversity seminars with a CGI budget. It's not about identity, it's about integrity.
No doubt about it that the Ironheart series is definitely by far the worst creation by the Marvel Cinematic Universe, by Marvel Studios and the Disney company for obvious reasons. We all know that there's an agenda and there's a lot of messaging behind this show, but one thing is for certain about this series is that all agendas aside, let's be very real about this.
Fans want compelling stories, not lectures disguised as capes. So now, DC's got the upper hand. And if Gunn delivers even a halfway decent Superman movie, while Marvel stumbles again with Fantastic Four, the balance of power in comic book cinema could shift for good. But Marvel isn't just worried about DC, they're reportedly prepping something drastic and risky. Because what comes next could change the MCU forever. So, Marvel's in crisis mode, the fans are tuning out, and DC's got their eyes on the throne. What's Disney's move? Apparently, reboot everyone. Yeah, you heard that right. According to multiple leaks and insider whispers, Marvel execs are actively discussing replacing some of the franchise's biggest names. And not in 5 years, but soon. We're talking Thor, Hulk, and even Doctor Strange possibly getting the boot. And just to be clear, this isn't part of some big multiverse twist. No clever in-universe explanation, just fresh faces for the sake of appealing to younger audiences. But here's the problem, no one asked for that. Fans are still showing love for Chris Hemsworth's Thor. Benedict Cumberbatch, still iconic as Doctor Strange. Even Mark Ruffalo, despite the mixed reactions to Smart Hulk, has die-hard support. But Disney's allegedly looking at early exits and shiny new replacements. Why? To chase that Gen Z demographic, the TikTok trends, and the fresh start pitch they think will revive the MCU. But let's be real, you don't fix a broken house by throwing out the furniture. You fix the foundation, and fans are catching on fast. The backlash to these reboot rumors has already started gaining steam. Threads on Reddit, comment sections on YouTube, even a few major influencers are calling this out as tone-deaf and desperate. People aren't against new heroes. They're against replacing beloved characters before their arcs are finished, before they've been given satisfying send-offs. It feels cheap, like Marvel is erasing a decade of emotional investment just to slap a new face on a poster. And if Disney actually moves forward with these recasts, the damage could be irreversible. But this isn't even the worst part. because there's another fan favorite that's been quietly slipping into development hell, and that might be the biggest red flag of all. Yep, we're talking about Blade. And what's happening there might tell you everything you need to know about where the MCU is really headed.
First Ironheart reactions are in. Does it defy the haters? Or is it another skippable series? It's always about you, right? It's always about the audience. It's amazing. Doesn't matter if it's the 2024 election or whether it's a Disney streaming product. It's always about like how evil is the actual voters? How evil are the audience?
All right, let's talk about Blade. Because if there was any project fans were still genuinely hyped for, it was this one, a gritty reboot, a fan favorite anti-hero, a fresh lane for Marvel to explore. But instead of sharpening the edge, Marvel keeps fumbling the sword. Let's rewind real quick. Blade was officially announced back in 2019 with Mahershala Ali cast as the lead. Two-time Oscar winner, total powerhouse, and fans were eating it up. This was supposed to be Marvel's darker, more mature shift, a return to that raw energy that made the original Blade trilogy so iconic. But fast forward to now, the project is in shambles. The film has been delayed not once, not twice, but 4 times. Multiple script rewrites, multiple directors dropping out, and now there's talk that Mahershala himself is frustrated with the lack of direction. Some sources even claim he almost walked away from the role altogether. And here's where it gets especially wild. According to industry whispers, the latest script reportedly reduced Blade to a supporting role in his own movie. No, seriously, one draft allegedly focused more on brand new characters than the actual vampire-slaying icon we all came to see. Like, what are we doing here? It's become the perfect metaphor for Marvel's current phase. Unfocused, overly experimental, and deeply unsure of its own identity. And remember, Blade was originally supposed to drop this year. Now, the release date is in limbo, and some insiders are even hinting that it could get shelved indefinitely. Cancelled? Not officially, but it's definitely not looking good. Which is tragic, because Blade was supposed to prove that Marvel could still take creative risks that actually worked. Instead, it's just another symbol of chaos behind the scenes. So now fans are asking, if they can't even get Blade right, with the perfect casting, a hungry fan base, and a clear tone, what can Marvel get right anymore? And that frustration is boiling over. Which brings us right back to Mel Gibson, and why his final mic drop in this whole drama hit even harder than expected. Let's wrap this up with the big picture, and what it really means for the future of the MCU. So after all of this, Ironheart bombing, Blade collapsing, reboot rumors swirling, and the OG creative team walking out the back door, where does that leave Marvel? Honestly, on very, very thin ice. The backlash to Ironheart isn't just about one show flopping, it's a symptom of something much deeper. A franchise that's forgotten what made it special. Fans didn't fall in love with Marvel because of trending hashtags or investor checklists. They showed up for bold characters, emotional arcs, and unforgettable moments that made superhero stories feel human. And Mel Gibson, love him or hate him, he's saying what a lot of fans have been thinking, but were too nervous to say. Marvel has lost its spark. He wasn't dragging diversity. He wasn't knocking new ideas. He was calling out the fact that when you build stories around agendas instead of emotion, people check out. That's not an opinion anymore. That's what the numbers are literally showing us. Ironheart wasn't the beginning of the end. It might have been the breaking point. A test balloon that popped before it even left the ground. And now, every upcoming project is carrying that weight, especially Fantastic Four. If Marvel drops the ball again, that might be it. The era of endless anticipation could finally be over. And here's the part that really hits. Disney seems more concerned about pleasing investors than fans. But here's the twist. Those investors won't stick around if the audience disappears. Merch is down, engagement is down, and the once bulletproof Marvel brand, it's starting to look cracked. So what happens next? Maybe Marvel course corrects. Maybe they rediscover what made the first 3 phases feel iconic. Or maybe they double down, reboot everyone, replace the legends, and lose what little goodwill they still have. One thing's clear, the fans are watching. The clock is ticking. And Fantastic Four might be Marvel's last chance to prove they still understand their own magic. Because if they fumble again, even Mel Gibson won't have to say anything next time.